we discuss about liquor, petroleum products, etc. So those are like exempted, not covered under GST, liquor, petroleum products and electricity. And there are exempted items like vegetables, food grains, etc., which are currently exempted from taxation. But what happens is, as we'll see in the return formats, that we have to report the details for this also. So whatever are we, for the sales as well as for the purchases, we have to report the aggregate of all liquor, let's say, sold by us. Although GST is not applicable to it, VAT would be applied to it, but you'll also have to maybe generate some tax code saying that this is a liquor tax code, capture details for it, that this is the non-GST items on which GST is not applied, but also get that generated with your GST return formats. That they are requiring currently as an aggregate summary, but they are wanting that information. Let's look at purchases side. So you have supplier types. Suppliers can be GST compliant, composite, unregistered, or imports. Purchase types, you may have normal goods, exempt goods, zero rate goods, and non-GST supply goods. It can be interstate, intrastate. You can have composite and mixed supplies. You'll have payments to be done within 6 months, condition which is there, and input tax credit conditions and calculations of how it will be done. So supplier types, GST compliant suppliers, we will be preferring to do business with such vendors as the input tax credit would be available from them. Proper invoices would have to be procured from them, which should contain our GST number mentioned on them. If he does not have the invoice which has our GST number, practically you can not claim that as your input tax credit. Also other details like the HSN code, SSC code, tax breakups will have to be mentioned. What type of tax has he charged, CGST, SGST, IGST, okay. So all this will also have to be mentioned. You have to also be careful when you are, supposing you have gone out of the state and made some purchases from outside the state. And so there you have to ensure that he charges you IGST. He should not charge you CGST, SGST of his state. Otherwise you will not get the credit for the same. So this type of proper invoicing would be required. Why again is it required? Because from that invoicing, when you input your purchase details, that purchase details and the purchase sale details entered by your vendor, they have to match. His invoice number with your invoice number, what you have mentioned over there, that this is the invoice number which I have procured, invoice date. We'll look at various the columns actual that we have to report upon in detail. GSTIN will in future be also giving supplier ratings to each and every person. So typically from your vendors who are GST compliant, they would be rated if they are, let's say, defaulting and furnishing their returns on time, or they have not paid their tax liabilities. What will happen is there will be some black marks against them, so that you are aware when you are dealing with them next time that, okay, this vendor, maybe if he again defaults, I will not get my tax credits in time. And not getting tax credits in time, as explained, you will not only have to pay the tax, but even pay interest thereon. So that's a double cost to you. Moving further, we have supplier types. We look at each type now. What are composite suppliers? Composite suppliers would be those whose annual turnover in the preceding financial year is less than 50 lakhs. These suppliers shall pay tax as a percentage of their turnover, and they shall not collect any tax from their customers. So it will be an all-inclusive tax bill which a composite supplier can give it to you. He is registered under GST. But the only thing is you will not be eligible for any input tax credit on his invoices. And interstate suppliers or those supplying through e-commerce operators, they shall not be eligible for the composition scheme. So these are suppliers who are composite suppliers. Then there are unregistered suppliers. So in case of a receipt of supply from an unregistered person, the registered person who is receiving goods or services shall be liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. The supplier would have to classify the item, it's not a supplier actually, the purchaser would have to classify the item purchased as per the HSN code. He will have to determine, as in the example given by Mr. Shriram, while coming to the hotel, if I purchase a pen on the way and it is from an unregistered supplier, I will have to create an invoice on behalf of that unregistered supplier in my books. When I create that invoice, I also have to know what is the HSN code for that particular pen. Find out what is the tax charge on that. Do all that stuff, make an invoice in my system, take a printout of such invoice and keep it in my records. That this is a purchase made from me from XYZ and company, which is a small time trader. Yes, as with a regular purchase on which I have paid my GST, I will also be eligible for input tax credit on that purchase. So what's the sense? I mean, I'm paying tax, I'm collecting tax, but what happens is in the month in which you have to pay the tax, that becomes your liability. You are not eligible to set off that credit in that same month against this. So that much of a tax which is on reverse charge mechanism, in that month you have to pay that much minimum tax. So again a reverse outflow of cash flow happens for you. Details of such supplier, name and address would also have to be captured for uploading into the system. So every purchase that you are making on reverse charge mechanism, whether be it of 100 rupees, you have to upload such details up into the GSTN network. The intention basically seems to be to capture all such suppliers and find out if everybody is reporting this XYZ and company downstairs, the government will come to know, okay, he has more than 20 lakhs turnover. So that might be the intention. Otherwise, I mean, for an entity to do all this on behalf of the supplier becomes a crazy thing. So, I mean, suppliers will also be forced to get themselves enrolled, or else unregistered suppliers will only deal with end consumers finally. Imports are the other types of supplies. So you have imports of goods and services that will be treated at IGST only, and the incidence of tax will follow the destination principle, and the tax revenue in case of SGST would accrue to the state where the imported goods and services are finally consumed. Full and complete set off will be available on the GST paid on import of goods and services. Payments to be done within 6 months. There is this further provision which is there, so that you have purchased something from a supplier on credit. For some reason, maybe you have a cash flow problem, you have not made the payments to your supplier within 6 months. So GSTN wants you to upload information of such invoices. The input tax credit claimed earlier on that invoice would be reversed, and interest would be charged on the same. Later, when the payment for the same, so supposing you have purchased something in the month of January, July month comes, you have still not made the payment for it. So from your system, I gather you can get an outstanding report of outstanding more than 6 months. Take that out, file that with your GSTN and pay the tax on it. Find out how much tax you had already claimed and accordingly pay the tax on it. 7th month, that is still outstanding. But now you have to be careful that you don't again report that same invoice. You already reported it once. You already reversed the tax credit. So that is to be seen by you. 8th month, when you finally again pay that supplier, that time you will say that okay, this was reversed and therefore I take that credit back. So these are important concepts that you will have to take into consideration. See that your systems are able to give you this type of information, because as he said, if you try to do all this manually, it's just impossible. You have to have systems driven, your organization should be system driven to enable you to take out reports of this nature. Now let's look at input tax credit, certain conditions. So input tax credit can be availed of only if it is a B2B transaction. The purchaser possesses a tax invoice, a debit note, a bill of entry, an ISD invoice, or an invoice issued by a service recipient under reverse charge mechanism. So we have seen a tax invoice, debit note, bill of entry, etc. ISD I will again explain just after this slide. And prescribed particulars should be mentioned on that invoice, as we saw earlier, and the tax invoice part of it. Goods and services should have been received by such person. Then only input tax credit, once you receive it, can be availed by you. Tax charge in respect to such supply has actually been paid to the government by the supplier. Seller has uploaded the relevant information in his return, and purchaser correspondingly matches the corresponding entries in his returns also. Once all this is done and is in place, then only the tax credit will flow to you. ISD was basically input service distributor. This basically applies when supposing you have a corporate office and you have 3 or 4 units within the state. Now this corporate office sometimes incurs expenses on behalf of all the others. Let's say advertisement is done by them, etc. So these expenses, now corporate office per se does not have any income of its own. So what happens is they get invoices for such advertisement, etc. But they are not able to claim the input tax credit because they don't have a different, any sales of their own. So what will happen to them? They can register themselves as an ISD, which is an input service distributor. If they register themselves as an ISD and a different GSTIN number is allotted to them for that purposes, they can get such invoices made under the ISD GSTIN number. And at the end of the month, they can now say that I am allotting my whatever input tax credit that I am going to receive to my various units. It's not up to me to allot what I like to which unit. There are rules for that also, that how much can be allotted based on their respective units turnover, etc. So that will be the way in which the input service distribution credits can be distributed amongst different entities. There again, there will be the input service distributor will say, I am allotting this much credit to XYZ units of mine, and each of these units would again have to show in their return and claim that credit again. Everywhere there is a cross matching. You just can't say something on my own and say that, okay, this is not like your income tax that I truly verify and certify that this is okay. No. Here they want the other guy also to certify that everything you have said is okay. Credits not available. So we have motor vehicles, other conveyances, except when they are used for providing taxable supplies of further supply of vehicles and conveyances. So typically, if me as a hotel is taking motor cars on hire from another agency and supplying it to my guests, I will be able to claim credit of the same because I am again using it and further supply of the same to my guests. But my guests who are using it, maybe he is come from Maharashtra only into my hotel, otherwise he is eligible for taking the B2B credit for the stay. For motor car expenses, he will not be able to take it. Then goods and services provided in relation to food and beverages, outdoor catering, beauty treatment, health services, cosmetic and plastic surgery. All these are again not eligible, except when used for providing similar taxable services. Membership of clubs, health and fitness centers are not eligible. Goods and services received for construction of immovable property on own account, that is not eligible. Goods and services on which tax has been paid under composition scheme by your vendor, that is not eligible. Goods and services received by a non-resident taxable person, he is not eligible to claim unless, except on goods imported by him. Goods and services used for personal consumption, no input tax credit available. Goods lost, stolen, destroyed, written off or disposed by way of gift or free samples. Here again, we will see later that you have to keep a track of that also. But for all this, goods lost means you had purchased something, you had claimed input tax credit. Now that goods are lost or destroyed or used as samples or written off, you have to reverse the credit which you had claimed earlier, because if you show that I did not use it for further business purposes, basically that is a loss and GST doesn't want to sponsor that loss of yours. So you have to reverse that loss. The tax paid on that component also. So this basically are credits not available. Let's look at the calculation of credits. How does credits get calculated? So up till now we have assumed that, okay, I match my return. He said I have sold you for 1000 rupees and paid tax, let's say 180 rupees on that. you acknowledge the same, you get 180 rupees into your pocket. Not so simple. You have to see there are provisions that are relating to apportionment of credit, which is applicable to the cases where goods and services are partly used for business purpose and partly for other purposes. So if you have purchased something which is not wholly used for your businesses, okay, in such cases credit is only available to the extent that you are used for business purposes. So for example, you have a staff cafeteria. You have purchased all your cereals, whatever, vegetables, etc. Vegetables may not have, but any food, other food products, canned food products, you have paid GST on them. Whatever is the amount which you are giving to the staff cafeteria kitchen, on that you have to reverse that. I mean, take it out of the credit calculation. That is not available to you as credits. Similarly, whenever the goods and services have been used partly for effecting taxable supplies and partly for exempted supplies, the amount of credit shall be restricted to so much of the credit as is attributable to the taxable supplies only. So how do we read this? I am serving food as well as liquor in my restaurants. So liquor is non-GST. So let's assume out of my total hotel sales, 10% is liquor sales. So out of the total credit that is available to me after deducting the first provision, whatever is now left, out of that 10% will again go away, because that is attributable to you serving non-GST items. So whatever input credit that you are taking on your other items also, from that also 10% of that will not be applicable to you. So all this needs to be taken care of when you are doing your calculations for GST. Common inputs for GST and GST exempt outputs may also require GST input tax reversals. Now let's look at certain returns. What are the various returns which are there? So we have GSTR1, which is details of outward supplies made. That means my sales. Before the 10th of the next month, I have to upload my sales details. It's not just me, everybody has to upload their sales details. So all my suppliers who have sold to me should also be uploading their sales details by the 10th of the month. You have options, you can do daily uploads if you like, but by the 10th of the next month, they have to finish that. Details of what will happen is a GSTR2A will be generated by the GSTN portal, which will have the details of inward supplies made to me for when I am looking at my own shelf. So from all my vendors who have supplied goods to me, they will all get accumulated under my GST number, and when I log in, I will be able to see that these are my purchases which are there. When will that happen? After due date of filing of return of GSTR1. So after the 10th of the month, I will be able to see this. Details of inward supplies made. Now this is the return which now I have to upload. So that is the purchases which is now generated, auto-generated from the GSTN based on my suppliers filing their details. I will now have to check whether against each purchase. So either I have to download that, do some routine in my system which throws up discrepancies. Okay, discrepancies can be because it could be like, let's say somebody has put in a wrong GSTN number. So instead of putting my GSTN number, you have put in one alphabet wrong, it goes to somebody else. Now what happens in a case like this? I will not find it. I will find my invoice out here with me, but I will not find that detail. So I will claim that. And the opposing guy to whom he will say, this has not been sold to me, so he will reject it. So there can be a claim, there can be a rejection, there can be a case wherein the amount is mentioned wrong or the HSN code doesn't match. We have provisions for putting HSN codes of 2 digits, 4 digits, etc., depending on what type of a supplier you are. So if you are a small scale supplier, there are limits. You put in only 2 digits of the HSN code. If you are a large scale supplier, you put in 4 digits. If you are importing, you put in total 8 digits of the HSN code. Now all this information, whatever your supplier has put in, if you do not put in the same HSN code, maybe the system will not match the two. We have been told right now by some GSPs that currently maybe the HSN code will not be a big factor in the matching. So even if the two HSN codes do not match, because everybody is not aware, the list of HSN code runs into some 800 pages. Okay. So you have to be clear as to this Mike, what type of HSN code is it? I mean, it's to that level you have to go to and understand and look up those items in it. So there will be mismatches in the earlier months. So maybe they will take away that scenario wherein you don't have to match, and it will not be a crucial factor in the matching. So once you file your 2, and in that 2 you have said some things, you have made some corrections, either in the let's say invoice number was wrongly mentioned by you while keying in your data. He has put in another invoice number, so that will show as a mismatch. So you will either correct your data, or if he has put in something wrong, you will tell him that this is something wrong by you, and accordingly what will happen is you will upload your GSTR2. Once your GSTR2 is uploaded, the seller will in turn get a GSTR1A, which will be whatever his 1A added, deleted, corrected as per my GSTR2, it will be shown to him. And the supplier now can accept or reject the modification made, and the GSTR1 will be amended to the extent of that modification. So this is the way the entire flow of monthly purchases and sales are going to happen. Moving forward, you have a GSTR3, which is a monthly return, which is to be done by the 20th of the next month. What is a monthly return? This will be auto-populated from your GSTR1 and 2 itself. So this will tell you whatever are your total sales, what is your total purchases based on 1 and 2, and it will allow you to do the tax adjustment. So from your total input tax credit is so much is available, where you want to adjust the taxes, how much you want to adjust against your credits, how much you want to adjust against your tax paid ledgers, because you will be paying taxes also, and accordingly. So you may have cases wherein maybe you are getting excess credit of CGST and SGST or something, vice versa. So you will have to see that which one is to be matched against which. So that Mr. Sriram had already shown a chart of that how IGST and CGST credits can be against each other also. Then you have GSTR4 is quarterly return for compounding dealer. So those who are compounded suppliers, less than 50 lakhs turnover, for them there is a quarterly return only requirement, because against him there is no GST input tax credit that somebody can take. GST4A is inward supplies made to the recipient under composition. 5 is periodic report for non-resident foreign taxpayer. 6 is the return for input service distributor. As I explained, at corporate level entity, they will get all their inputs by the 10th of the month. By the 13th of the month, they have to say and distribute their taxes, input tax credits, to their units. So that by the 15th, when the GSTR2 is done, he will also have to accept those in ISD credits in his return. So this is one intermediate 13th of the month also, if you have an ISD type of applicability. And 6A is the inward supplies made to ISD recipient. 7 is a return for tax deductor at source, TDS and a TDS certificates. TDS of GST will be basically by the government suppliers only, two government supplies. Then there will be e-commerce operators who will be collecting TCS, that is tax collection at source, at 1% from all the bookings that they make through. So if Make My Trip bookings come to you, Make My Trip will collect the monies from the end consumer. They will give you an advance, they will deduct 1% TCS on it. On that advance, you again say that how much, if you are going to pay taxes on that advance, calculate your taxes, and in that month, claim credit of the TCS, which was deducted on by that Make My Trip. Then last and finally, look at the GSTR 9, which is the annual return. Now this annual return will be comprised again auto-populated mainly from your GSTR 1 and 2 and your monthly returns. So based on that, it will tell you, this is till 31st December of next financial year, it will tell you all your purchases, all your